Welcome back to Life as God Intended. If you're a parent, you've probably asked yourself more than once, am I doing this right? I know I did, and I was the father of 8 children and now the grandfather of 8 grandchildren. Parenting can feel like walking a tightrope, balancing love and discipline, truth and grace, expectations and reality. And in today's world, the pressure is enormous. Social media, parenting books, and even Christian culture can make you feel like you never quite measure up, that you're not enough. But here's the good news. God never intended parenting to be a performance. He designed it to be an overflow of His life through you. Proverbs 22 and verse 6 says, "Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it." That verse isn't about control. It's about participation with the Spirit of Christ who lives within you. The problem, parenting as performance. Most parents love their children deeply, but fear drives much of their parenting. We fear failure, rejection, embarrassment, and losing control. So what do we find ourselves doing often? Overcorrecting, overprotecting, overperforming. We say things like, "I just want them to turn out right. I'm afraid I'll mess them up." And those fears push us to rely on our own effort. But remember, our own effort is never independent. There's always an influencer to that independent way of living. And that would be Satan. But when we try to control outcomes instead of trusting Christ, we replace grace with law. And both parent and child end up being exhausted. The root problem isn't that we love our children too little, it's that we're trusting ourselves too much. The truth? Parenting is derivative from Christ, not self. Here's the truth. You weren't meant to be the perfect parent, only a receptive one to the perfect one living within you. Parenting is not about manufacturing results. It's about deriving life from Christ and letting His love flow through you to your children. As I've said many times on this channel, grace is God's activity and faith is your receptivity to His activity. That means when you feel inadequate, grace supplies. When you're weary, grace strengthens. When you fail, grace restores. You're not called to be the source, only to trust the source. By the way, when your children begin to see you trusting Christ instead of performing, they learn an important truth, the truth that you're walking by faith. They see what faith looks like. They see what Jesus looks like through your faith. And because you're humble and you admit when you make mistakes, but they see the genuineness of Christ's character being expressed through those times when you're genuinely walking by faith. The transformation comes as we begin to parent in freedom. Parenting from grace replaces control with peace. Instead of reacting in fear, you respond from faith. Instead of guilt or frustration, you operate in patience and rest. As you walk in dependency, your children see the reality of Christ's life expressed through you, and that becomes your most powerful teaching. You're living by example rather than just words. Ephesians 6:4 reminds us, "Fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and the admonition of the Lord." You can't nurture them or admonish them in the Lord if you haven't allowed the Lord to do so in yourself first. It's the overflow of what you're experiencing in Christ that is the best parenting method that there is. And by the way, that word nurture speaks of gentle cultivation, not coercion. It's not about perfect techniques, but about Christ's tenderness guiding you. When parents live by grace, children learn what grace looks like. I once counseled a mother who constantly worried about her teenage son's choices. She was trying to manage every decision, every conversation, every moment. When she realized her anxiety was rooted in self-dependence, she surrendered control to Christ. She began to pray differently. Not, "Lord, fix him," but, "Lord, express your life through me. Begin to change me." Peace entered her heart, and remarkably, her son's attitude began to soften because he began to experience Christ through her attitudes. Let me illustrate it by the gardener. The gardener can't force growth. He cultivates the soil, waters faithfully, and trusts God to give the increase. Parenting from grace is the same. You nurture the environment, but Christ causes the growth. Let's make this personal and practical. Where do I feel pressure to be the perfect parent? Do I respond to my child's behavior from fear or faith? Am I trying to control outcomes, or am I trusting Christ's sufficiency? As I've already kind of alluded to, you can't give what you haven't received. So start letting Christ parent you. You're his child. And as you receive his love, his wisdom, and correction, you'll naturally pass that same grace to your children. How has God been teaching you to parent from grace rather than pressure? What difference have you noticed in your rest in his sufficiency instead of striving on your own strength? Share your reflections in the comments. Your story might encourage another parent who's weary from trying to do it all on their own. By the way, this episode is drawn from chapter 11 of Free to Relate in Christ. The workbook series includes reflection questions, practical exercises to help you cultivate a home environment centered on Christ's love. If you haven't got your copy, I greatly encourage you to do so. And in our next broadcast, we'll rotate back to the daily life theme and explore something every believer faces: trials and testing, and how to preserve not by effort, but by trusting Christ's life within. And remember, parenting is not performance, it's participation with Christ. Your job isn't to be perfect, it's to trust the perfect one living in you. And that's life as God intended.